Good evening. Right, let's get our first story underway, and indeed the first phone in, 08085 909 693. Can you be a feminist and work in a strip club? The Women's Equality Party is campaigning for a club in Camden to have its licence taken away and for the council to stop renewing licences to the borough's 9 other clubs. The party says it respects the decisions and experiences of individual women who work in lap dancing clubs, but that these venues contribute to a culture where men feel entitled to women's bodies. Elsewhere, a strip club has won a battle to remain open after local authorities were told many of the dancers who work there are feminists. The Urban Tiger Club in Bristol had faced calls to be closed. 08085 909 693. What do you make of these strip clubs, and do you think they should be closed down? Earlier, I spoke to Dr. Sasha Rakoff, who is the CEO of Not Buying It, a campaign group that challenges sexual exploitation. And she told me she'd like to see the end of clubs like these completely closed. And I should say this interview does contain some sexual language.
No, unfortunately I don't. That's for recording on councils and the government to shut them down, provide proper exit support for all the women in it who are being harmed by it, and for real public awareness raising about how on earth can we have Time's Up when we have men buying women sexually in strip clubs or the porn and sex trade.
And of course, in shutting them down, Sasha, you deny those women who want to work in those clubs the choice, the right to choose for themselves what they work at.
Yeah, the problem is that for most women in it, this choice is made really through lack of choice. So the vast majority of women in it are often have come from abusive backgrounds. A research study suggests that 1/3 of lap dancers are in abusive relationships. Every lap dancer we've spoken to who's left the industry has said the vast majority, 90%, have come from abusive backgrounds. Many of the others are choosing it because of poverty. 1/3 of students are very concerned about student debt. Many others choose it because of lack of other work options, as they see it. So it's a choice through lack of choice, really.
There are many people who choose jobs they don't want to do because of poverty. Mm-hmm. And I've spoken on some of the programmes I've done in the past to some sex workers who say they're making a very good living and that's their profession of choice. And they are in control. Indeed, they say they're in control of the men who attempt to pay for them. They're in control.
Yeah, I think the way the whole industry sets up is geared to make everyone feel the women are the ones in control, but they're the ones who are naked, the men are the ones who are clothed. You are in debt before you even start working in a strip club, because you have to pay to work there. A major research study in the UK by a pro-strip industry academic showed that 70% of lap dancers say they leave a shift without having made any money whatsoever.
What study was that?
Oh, it's by somebody called Tila Sanders, who's a very strong advocate of the sex trade generally. So she interviewed many lap dancers, questionnaires, etc. And that's only gotten worse, other researchers have found, since the recession's hit us. So certainly financially, it's not very easy to be in control. And usually the only way you can be in control is by breaking the rules and providing sexual contact or full-blown sex acts.
And that's a different discussion, isn't it? So that's not allowed.
Oh, well, no, but the rules that most councils seem to have are fairly negligible. The only rule they really have is, get as close as you like, but don't touch. So firstly, how can you actually tell if there's touching going on or not? If your hair's breadth away, no matter how much CCTV, you can't tell. And secondly, if touching is deemed on the slippery slope of prostitution, but being a hair's breadth away from it isn't, then really you're a hair's breadth away from having to prostitute yourself from the get-go. And many women we've spoken to who've left the industry say sexual contact, it's the norm, it's happening in every single club. The only way to make good money is to provide even more than that, full-blown blowjobs and handjobs.
And don't you think that it's a little bit strange, Sasha, that you haven't met any women who are choosing to do this and are happy with what they're doing?
Well, when you're in that industry, I mean, first you do have this huge sense of power over men, and many women who've left will tell you that, because you've got a man wrapped around your little finger. You might be spending hundreds of pounds, thousands of pounds, because he finds you so attractive. So that's that feeling of power over a man, but that's not empowerment. Any woman who feels she has power over a man in a society where 10 million women in the UK experience male violence is really deluding herself.
So what do you want? Do you want all strip clubs closed down?
Yes, ultimately, and I want the women in it supported emotionally if they need it, but definitely supported into other work where harassment and abuse is being costed for sex by every single man having to provide sexual contact or sexual services is not part of the job description.
And you don't think this will drive women underground?
Well, how can you get an underground strip club?
Well,
I think if anything...
Well, they may go in. They may otherwise be that desperate for money, or you've taken away their chosen profession, that they may, if you're right, go into prostitution, for example.
Well, actually, I think the strip industry is simply a breeding ground for prostitution. It's a grooming ground for young women. An awful lot of them are from abroad. They don't have a family support network. They might not have friends here. They're ripe pickings for the pimps who hang out in the local strip clubs. And it's a shop window for men for prostitution, who are accosted by touts very often the minute they leave, telling them about the nearby brothels. So the whole thing, it is simply on that slippery slope of prostitution anyway. And it's encouraging prostitution. It's encouraging men to use prostitutes because they've been at a strip club where they paid a woman to get naked, grind on them, expose their genitals, etc. It's barely a step away from prostitution. They're coming out sexually aroused, drunk, wanting more. You can't dissociate one from the other. They are intimately linked.
And you will have heard the claim that was made to some of the local authorities who were being lobbied to close these strip clubs down. Some of those for the strip clubs have told the local authorities that many of the dancers are feminists. What do you make of that?
Well, of course they're feminists. I think you'd be quite hard put to find any woman in this country who didn't see herself as a feminist. I mean, that just means you believe you're equal to a man, you should be respected, you should be safe. But while we have a porn and sex industry where men can buy women, which is breeding Harvey Weinstein-type attitudes, we're never going to have even safety for women, let alone equality.
So what's next then? How do you think you're going to win this battle?
Well, I think it's going to be very hard indeed. But we'll just keep on lobbying, we'll keep trying to raise awareness of what the reality of lap dancing is, how abusive it is. You're dealing with women who are vulnerable from the get-go. They're put into a very abusive situation. And it's just a drawing ground for prostitution, which is incredibly abusive. We'll lobby councils, we'll lobby the Home Office and the media to try and raise awareness about the reality of it for a great many women in it.
It's been nice talking to you tonight. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you, bye.
So what do you think tonight? 08085 909 69.